What are some of the people that are having the most success with your platform? What are they doing differently than the people that aren't?
But do it digitally, I think are far and away seeing the most success on our platform so far.
Buckle up. It's the Insurance Dudes podcast.
It's cool to hear that origin story. I mean, where are you at with the agency and the software right now, and kind of where are you headed, and what are you guys focusing on?
Yeah, we're all over the place now. But so we've got more than 600 agencies that are using the software now all over the country. And like I said, kind of runs the gamut of what those look like. Now it's really just kind of hitting the gas a little bit. So we're venture back, so we've raised some capital, and we're raising a little bit more now. And it's really just kind of throwing gasoline on the fire and trying to figure out how we can get in every agency across the country. And I mean, our whole goal, right, is to be behind every big insurance brand that you see. We want to essentially be kind of the gears and the pipes, or whatever you want to call it, behind them. And we joke. We want every company in the country to buy a policy through Talage, but most of them never have any idea they did it right. And so that's really our goal, is to be everywhere. And so we're working with retail agencies now, starting to expand out deeper into kind of the wholesale relationships, MGAs, really anyone who's distributing their product anywhere is where we're trying to be.
What are some of the people that are having the most success with your platform? What are they doing differently than the people that aren't?
I think it's kind of an old, right? I mean, I worked for some really, really successful agents in my career when I was growing up and figuring out how they grow up professionally. Still haven't grown up. But what they were trying to do, right? And I think so many agents that are really successful find that niche, right? Like you find somebody who's like, hey, we write more janitorial contractors than anybody in the country, and we do a ton of it, right? And I think there's a lot of agents across the country that find these niches and get successful at it. And it's not surprising maybe, but we're seeing the exact same thing on the technology side. Companies that build these affiliate partnerships where they've got a restaurant association, or they've got whatever it is in their individual communities. People who can replicate kind of that niche marketing, but do it digitally, I think are far and away seeing the most success on our platform so far.
Yeah. Niching down is so important. And then it gives you the opportunity to do what you like, right? Like you can serve the people of the thing that you like, and then you're just doing that.
Yeah. And you get good at it. And especially, with digital too, right? Like, to buy, I don't know if it's still, but like workers' compensation, to like get Google to buy workers' compensation as a keyword was like the most expensive word. And you were fighting like the daytime lawyers, right? So there's a lot of reasons for that. But if you can drill that down and say like, okay, workers' compensation for landscapers in Durham, North Carolina, like cool. Like that's much more affordable and probably much more effective. And so I think we're seeing that's where the success is coming, as guys and girls who can kind of drill into there and figure it out.
What is the price of just workers' comp? What was it the last time?
It was like $12 a click or something crazy.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was insane. And we went in because when we first started, when we did like I said, we kind of had this test agency, and so we call Google it. We think we're super smart. We're like, we want workers' comp, and they're like, sure. So does everybody else. And because we didn't realize that we were literally competing with like the daytime TV lawyers. Like that's who's actually buying workers' comp because they're looking for the workers' comp claims, right? And so they were the ones that are actually driving the price way up on that AdWord. Was some unexpected challenges we were testing things out.
Yeah. Well, that insurance space on Google is a very pricey location above the search right there.
Definitely.
For anybody that's looked at marketing.
Cool, man. So what advice would you give? Like take a small agent, either a new one or just a smaller agent that was just hitting your platform, or anything really. But like, what would you give them advice as to really just start crushing it besides just niching it?
Yeah, I think besides, the niching is good, but like that's really kind of in regard to the new business, right? Like, and our platform does new business, but it also handles renewals and things like that. And so I think evaluating why you do the things you do sometimes, I think is a good exercise, is just kind of stepping back and saying like, why do we do this? And there may be a very good reason for it, right? Keep doing it. But a lot of times I think there's like kind of like, let's slow down, let's back this up a little bit and figure out why we do what we do. And so when we talk to agencies that are new, or at least new to kind of the digital realm, it's again, kind of half joking. The worst thing our product can do for you is, you can put in an application, we utilize those APIs, and we can quote it 5 times, 6 times, however many times you want us to quote it with different carriers in the same amount of time that it would take you to quote it 1 time, right? Like, so best case scenario, we make you 5 times. Worst case scenario, we make you 5 times more effective. Best case scenario, we drive more business, all these other things. So I think, looking at it from an efficiency play where it's harder and harder to find help, I'm sure you guys see it in your professional lives, like finding good help is really hard to find, and it's getting more expensive for sure. And so if you can make all your people more effective and more efficient, I think that's the best place to start. And then, kind of growing what you have from there is what we've seen.
Yes, love it. With the platform quoting so many people, so we've had a few people on here recently that have other business platforms that quote multiple agencies. A, what sets you guys apart? But also, why is there such an influx in this within the last couple of years?
I think the influx is because it wasn't really available, right? I mean, you guys have been around long enough. I mean, people have tried this for the last 10, 15 years. And especially early on when we were talking to investors and basically people were like, why hasn't somebody done this? Why didn't somebody do this 10 years ago? Because when you look at kind of APIs, right, like it's kind of new and shiny in insurance, but APIs have been being used in every other industry for the last 25 years, right? And so when you talk to kind of outside investors, they're like, who cares? This isn't interesting. It's like, no, it is interesting in this very big, segment.
They just found the internet.
Yeah, like literally. I've told the story 100 times. So when I was working at Employers, and I say it with love because Employers is one of our favorite partners. But so I actually worked for them for a little bit, and then now they've come onto the platform, and they've been a fantastic partner of ours. But I pitched them this idea that was not exactly Talage, but kind of close to it. And they basically came to me, and they're like, we just don't think people want to buy things on the internet. And it was like,
when was this?
Oh, this was 2014, 2015.
What?
They're like, no, people like their agents and they trust those. Like, only Hartford could sell things.
That's what Blockbuster said.
Yeah, exactly, right. I put 2 Employers credit they put up, and they're yeah, it's been interesting to kind of watch it. But I think that's where the influx is coming from. Kind of back to your question was, like, this couldn't have happened 10 years. Like, we could have built our platform, and 10 years ago it would have gone 0 places, right? Like, there was just nothing on the carrier side that you could have actually connected them to. And so I think you saw some screen scraping and some different things that people use to kind of get around that and offer some similar experiences. But with the advent of the APIs and actually being able to pull real quotes, and the market's actually blocked, right? It's replicating what your CSR would do in your agency. And so the carrier is kind of upping their game in terms of what they're actually able to do digitally, I think is presenting opportunities for us on this side.
Not to nerd out too much, but I'm really curious. Like, my understanding is most of the carriers like have some back room with this computer that's the size of a boat that hosts all of the information on it, right? Like, it's just old, written in Cobalt or something, or BASIC, and all the information is there. So how does the API from something new talk to, like, how do they talk to each other? Like,
yeah, it's layers. It's actually an old lady with like a punch card. Like,
right. Yeah, there's somebody in a steering wheel on it, like there's
it's like steam shooting out of it. It's like,
yeah. I just don't get it, like how it.
No, I mean, basically they have layers, right? Like, I mean, and this is the problem with you're an insurance company. People a lot of times I think like to kind of dog on the insurance industry, but you have to understand some of the regulation and just the old legacy systems. And like, insurance does weird things. Like, I can't defend all of it, but there are legitimate reasons it does some of the weird things it does, right? And so I think people underestimate that a little bit. But when you kind of look at what they're building now, some of these guys, right, like the Guidewires and the Duck Creeks and the Jescos, like, are building new platforms, and these guys are spending a lot of money putting in new underwriting platforms. And then the other thing they do is they just build essentially layers. So they have that little old lady with a punch card sitting in a back room, and then they just build layers and layers on top of that. And they've been doing that for a long time, and it like mostly works. And so PwC is really good at charging a bunch of money to come in and build you an API and spec it out for you. And that's a lot of times that's what we'll actually hit is like the API over the system. And other times we're directly in the system, which is much better, but It's all over the place, honestly.
I mean, at some point, are there too many layers and it just doesn't work anymore? Because, I mean, that's been a carrier we're familiar with has done that with the quoting part. It's like new, but it's not new. It's just on top, right?
Yeah. Oh, I think it definitely does. And I think that, but I mean, the expense of that, right? Like, and this is not picking on anybody, but when you look at like a Guidewire, I mean, you're looking at hundreds of millions of dollars to put in a new system, right? I mean, these are not expensive.
You can't just get a Dell? You can't just put a Dell in there? And... Okay.
Not even an Apple. Not even a Mac.
Not the new one with the M1?
Maybe the new one.
It's like an iPhone. They just stick an iPhone in the rim.
Yeah, exactly.
Whole thing runs off this phone. It's got a terabyte.
It's pretty close to that, though. But I mean, that's the other thing, too, is like the data, right? Like, I mean, these guys aren't even on... I mean, this is like kind of when you look at the industry, how much progress has made in the last 5 years. Actually, I mean, as much fun as it to pick on them, they've made a lot of progress. And I mean, Guidewire was selling on-premises systems 5 years ago. And so the fact that like the cloud is now like the new thing, and then we very quickly went from on-premises like through the cloud and now like to an API-based kind of network. And so, I think we might be 15 years behind, but we've made 10 years of progress in the last 3 years because they've recognized it and they're trying to do things about it.
Huh. They found the cloud.
And with that, where are you seeing things going? Because it does seem like that. It's like exponentially faster within the last few years. So where do you see things headed in the next few years going forward?
I mean, we tell people all the time, like we're not that smart. Like nothing we're doing is like new or anything. Like we just kind of copy what other industries have done and do it in insurance, right? Whether it was like kind of the airlines where they, you get these kayak experiences and things like that. And then, or it's the other financial institutions where you're banking through different, your Apple Wallet or whatever you've got, right? Like you can kind of run your banking through one singular source. And that's where I think it goes, right? It's kind of this like almost insurance as a franchise kind of thing where the insurance carriers hold the paper, they hold the underwriting, but the distribution is owned by everybody. And, utilizing APIs, utilizing the independent agency channel, like we don't believe that channel is going anywhere. Utilizing, captive agents, utilizing alternative programs, doing the embedded thing where they can sell a product through another product. All those things I think are all in play all at the same time. And when the carriers start to kind of view that way, and that's really what these APIs can do for them, I think that's where we go probably in a hurry.
How about the agent? Do you see the agent hanging around, or is it going to be replaced by a machine?
No, I don't think the agent goes anywhere, right? Like the example we use all the time, and it's not perfect, but I think it's close, is like when you look at the travel industry, right? Like, and there's obviously travel agents got decimated by kayak and those guys, right? But like there's also, if the three of us want to go meet up in Vegas for a weekend, we're going to jump on Southwest.com, book a flight, and go to Vegas, right? But if we're going to take all our companies and we're going to bring our families and we're going to go to Europe for a month, like you probably book that through an agent, right? Like, I think that's where agents really kind of bring their real value is, focus on the risks that where an agent brings real value. And it's a risk mitigation tool and it's a financial tool and it's all these things. And the ones where it's a flight to Vegas, right? Like don't spend your time on that. It's not worth it. Just let the people do that automatically, kind of let it run through and then focus on where you can bring real value. So that's what I think agents, I think there'll be some consolidation, but I think that's what agents looks like 5-10 years ago.
Find the niche. I mean, it is so important, and everybody says it over and over, but it is. Like a lot of agents come in, they're all hungry and aggressive and young still, and they're like, I want to help everybody. And it's like, dude, don't do that.
No, some of the best. When I was working for employers, it was cool. So I was running their Western sales team. So I worked with agents from like basically Texas to California. And like, we saw lots of kind of generalist agents, but the biggest ones were always like this guy owns all the fencing contractors in Northeast Texas. And it's like, what the hell does that even mean? Right.
Right.
I mean, but it was all of them. And it was like, and he was the guy. And it was like, that's awesome. And like, I think these people that can kind of carve out these niches, it's like, I mean, that's where you see the biggest success. And I think you will continue to see that.
Well, awesome. So folks that want to learn more about Talage, is it just talage.com?
Talage-ins.com.
Ooh.
Yeah, so we have INS on there.
Yes.
We got in a little bit of a dispute with the guy who owns Talage.com. It's a good time. That's probably like another podcast for another day. But
yes, I would love to hear that story.
Like, he spelled the kid's name was Talmage, and he's a kid, but he's my age. And he like had like a project, and he spelled his own name wrong. And like he went to North Carolina State. And spelled his own name wrong, made Talage.com and like had all these things on there. So we called him, like, hey, can we buy it? Like, this is when we first started out, like, can we buy it? And then he came back and he's like, you can have it for $100,000. And I was like, screw you. Like, we don't have that. And so then it just became this like fight we got into him with him. And so now if you go to his website, it actually talks about us and that he's not us. And it's this weird little dispute. It's a good time.
Well, and our site's the iDudes. We had to put because the guy that has iDudes was a pain. So
was he just holding on to it in case Apple wanted to buy iDudes or something?
I guess. Yeah. I don't know. 25K.
I don't think your domain matters as much anymore.
No, it doesn't matter.
So.
Right.
No,
as long as you can plug it in a podcast, theidudes.com.
Absolutely. That's perfect.
There you go.
The Insurance Dudes was a good one. I like that one. I mean, because you got other types of insurance people with podcasts, but the Insurance Dudes was that was a good one. I like that.
Yeah, the dudes are probably the best. Well, Adam, thanks so much for coming on. It's been awesome. We'll catch up with you down the road. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Sounds
man.
good, guys. Thanks for having me. Yeah. I appreciate it.
Take care. See ya.
Take care.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Hey, Jason.
Yes, Mr. Craig.
That was another awesome episode, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if people want to get a little bit more action and learn how to write 100,000 in premium off of even the worst internet leads, where could they go?
They can go to live.teledudes.com.
Ooh, that sounds exciting. Are we going to be there?
Yes. It's a weekly call that we're doing right now it's live, and it will show you the process The entire process is super awesome.
I love it. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Sign up right now, live.teledudes.com.
Live.teledudes.com. That's live.teledudes.com.
Hey, Craig, there's a new community that we are starting that I cannot wait to tell everybody about. It is our live texting community where you and I are going to answer people's questions and give them free content, right?
Are you kidding me? We get to talk to them?
Yeah, which is awesome, but they have to opt in. They have to text us at 520-214-2219. That's 520-214-2219.
Nice.
Craig, are you going to respond to these texts?
I'm going to respond to them for sure. Live.
I'm into it too. It's going to be awesome. And it's going to be our new texting community where we're going to get back to everybody that we can and drop some crazy content, free content, and free the calculator that you just came up with. That's right. The calling calculator, sales material. I mean, everything for insurance agents. This is it. It's the best texting community out there for insurance agents.
Well, what the heck is that number again? I can't remember it.
It's 520-214-2219. That's 520-214-2219.
I love it. I'm going to text it right now.
520-214-2219.
All right. I'll see you later, Mr. Jason.
Bye, Mr. Craig.
Wait, do they even listen to this on the radio anymore?
I love it. I love it.
Nice.
All right.